minutes and just do a little presentation for our 137th anniversary. So picture this, it was the year 1874, the Civil War being ended 9 years prior. Ulysses S. Grant was president of these United States. And it was then that some local Baptists had determined that this village needed a venue to train up the next generation in a knowledge of God and His Word. So in February of 1874, they held a Sunday school for religious instruction with an open invitation to the families of the community to send their kids. It was the second meeting of that Sunday school that had 17 in attendance, and it grew from there. And through the children, the parents also desired to partake in this new ministry. Early on, they added a preaching service and a prayer service. All of it was meeting in a private house. Then, due to the growth of the group, meeting in someone's home became inconvenient eventually. How would you like to have a Sunday school of 17 kids meeting in your living room? One of the founders of the Sunday school, James M. Post, who is a carpenter, he was in the process of setting up a carpenter's workshop, and when he completed it, he rented the top floor of his two-story building to the church. Guess how much they paid? $100 a month for a top floor of a building in Woodside. It was a few blocks west of here at 56th Street, and the attendance steadily increased. It became evident then that this group of believers meeting regularly for instruction and prayer needed to organize into a church. In the second Sunday of May of 1880, it was organized as a First Baptist Church of Woodside. The church then continued to meet in James Post's carpenter shop over the next 4 years. In a special business meeting in 1884, the church voted affirmatively to allow a committee to select plots of land on which to build a church building. They made a purchase in 1885 of some land where present-day Little Caesars and the bagel shop are now located. The church actually owned half of that entire block. A simple wooden church building was erected in 6 months, and the church held its first services in their own building on Christmas of 1885. As the church continued to grow, in 1909 they added an extension to their building. Then in 1916, construction began on the elevated train, and when it was completed, the disturbance of train traffic was an unbearable hindrance to holding services. Yet the church tolerated that for another 6 or 7 years until 1924. It was then that under the leadership of Pastor Anthony F. Trice, providentially an architect by training, they chose a plot of land for a new building at this corner, the corner of 58th Street and 41st Avenue. Under the guidance of Pastor Joseph A. Davis, the church changed its name to Woodside Community Church, then unfortunately tacking Baptist on at the end to de-emphasize the label in order to be more welcoming to other Protestant denominations, a move that some of us had feelings about. In 1955, at the 75th anniversary, Reverend Stanley Hazard, a leader in a local Baptist association, challenged the church that they should build a parsonage to accommodate their pastors. So they conducted a 3-year fundraising commitment and solicited and negotiated proposals and broke ground for the parsonage in 1959. Pastor Arthur Marone was the first pastor to live in the parsonage. Then, under the leadership of Pastor Rudolph Holtzman, the church finally cut ties with the American Baptist Convention, which was not headed in a theologically healthy direction, and the church became independent and not part of any denominational organization. How can the history of a church be recounted in a few minutes? Time would fail me to tell you of Pastor Charles Keto, the eccentric former Methodist who became convinced that baptism by immersion, left the Methodist denomination, became pastor at Woodside in 1897. Or how about Pastor Jonathan Bastow, born in Bradford, England, abandoned or orphaned by one or both of his parents. As a child, he worked in the coal mines of England until age 15. He studied theology and religion after working in the coal mines, and eventually became a pastor. He pastored for 59 years, 4 of them as a beloved pastor at Woodside. He testified that God had taken him from the coal mines and put him in the pastor's study. What about Pastor Charles Disler? We have people here who met Pastor Disler. He became pastor in 1948. He pastored, went to seminary, and worked bivocationally as a mailman for years, and then he left his job as a mailman to work in ministry full-time once his seminary degree was complete. There's so many great stories that I can tell you of the pastors and of the congregation for 137 years, but I'll leave you with one final thought. I'll direct your attention to the words on the bell tower, Jesus saves. In the ministry of this church, the Lord has saved all kinds of people. He has saved the poor and the well-to-do. He has saved black and white and Asian and Hispanic. He has saved intellectuals and the simple-minded. He has saved old adults and little children. He has saved Americans and he has saved immigrants. He has saved religious and irreligious. He has saved the comfortable and the destitute. He has saved professionals and laborers. He has saved people through this ministry for 137 years, and may he continue to do so for another 137 years if he tarries his return. And may we not lose that sacred message. Congratulations and happy 137 years.